And good evening again, everybody. Welcome to another Hoops HD Racket podcast. Once again, filling in for Galen, who has disappeared for the past few weeks. We still have an APB out for him. I'm Chad Sherwood, and with me this week is David Griggs. David, how you doing?
Why am I in jail? I
Why are
mean,
you?
well, you have to answer this for me, being the legal
Okay.
mind. I was arrested because of what they thought I would do New Year's Eve. I haven't done it yet. Why am I? They can't do that.
Well, David, just for my own personal safety, I had decided to close my office until after New Year's. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have your bail hearing
I
before
haven't
then.
done anything. I mean,
Hope you don't mind, but
audio only again tonight. But I didn't. I mean, all I was going to do was go out and have a few drinks like I normally possibly go wrong.
don't you have some type of injunction out there against getting drunk anymore?
Not everywhere, just I mean, several places, but not all places.
Okay, just like planet Earth.
I mean, large parts of it, yes.
Well, David, we did want to get into the we've got a pretty abbreviated show this week. Actually, it was a fairly abbreviated week with the Christmas holiday. We want to take a quick review of some of the key games that did happen this past week. Have a little conversation about a few of the teams that we've been looking at, and look ahead to next week. Um, the big games this past week. Let's start with the game with it was Monday night. Kansas went to Temple, and well, maybe Kansas did not go to Temple. They
No, they did
absolutely did
not
not show up.
show up. And again, like I said, there have been a lot of surprising things that have happened in surprising ways. Temple winning is surprising. Temple winning by 25 is winning in a surprising way. I just don't, and we've seen things like that happen a lot this year. I have no explanation. Temple was not big on them at all coming into the year. They had an atrocious year last year. We were expecting them to be improved, but really what we were expecting was for them to not be as bad. I believe they just tipped off against Memphis, speaking of bad, but they're 8-4. They have a huge win on their profile now, albeit it was at home against a very good Kansas team. How about the job Fran Dunphy has done? I mean, Temple is always, they're not really in the national spotlight as much as you think they would be, considering how successful that program's been, especially since he's gotten there. How would you rate his coaching job this year? Is it? I would say it's as good as anybody's.
I think it's about as good as he's done at Temple. I've been kind of disappointed in his coaching performance the last couple of years with the Owls, but this year, obviously, the Kansas win. They had a nice home win over Louisiana Tech. They lost the UNLV game. I think is going to look like a lot better loss as we get in on further on in the season. I think this UNLV team is going to start to gel together. They lost the game to St. Joe's. It's a Big Five rivalry. I'm not that shocked that they. Well, I guess I'm a little shocked because it's not a good St. Joe's team this year.
Yeah, it's
But
a real bad St. Joe's.
I mean, the only other losses were Duke and Villanova. But I mean, just the way that they played against Kansas. They came out today. They actually took care of Delaware State today. They don't play Memphis till later on in the season. I think you're looking at something wrong there, David. But
What? Yeah, what am I looking at?
I don't know what you're looking at. But their next game is actually New Year's Eve. They kick off American Conference play at Connecticut. So
I'm
that's
looking at women's basketball.
okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes. So
Well, he may be coaching their women's team too. We should look into that. But
yes, we need
his job coaching their men's team, I think, has been one of his best jobs so far. But we really got to temper that. This is a very weak conference in the American Athletic Conference. It's kind of we were looking at it as UConn and maybe SMU, maybe Cincinnati. Now it's kind of UConn, maybe SMU, Cincinnati, or Temple. I,
yeah,
I think it's a two-bid league at the end of the day, though, and I think UConn's one of those teams. So
yeah, and it might be one of those to where they barely get the two that they get. It's a situation where, one of those three or four, Cincinnati, Temple, Memphis, one of them ends up winning the conference tournament. So that's the reason they get a second team in.
And the other problem you have playing in the American Conference, you've got to go and play some awful teams: Central Florida, South Florida, Houston, East Carolina, Tulane. Tulane. I guess Tulane has a good overall record, still not a good team.
No,
But I mean, and every time you play one of those games, you do nothing to help yourself, and you
no,
only have a risk of hurting yourself if something crazy happens.
right. And at this point, again, it's one of those leagues to where you need it to make a case for yourself already because you're not going to get the chance to do that in conference. So, I mean, this is a league that's in rough shape. It's been very disappointing this year.
Uh, the other big games this week were the Diamond Head Classic, where we thought Wichita State was going to go in there and roll. They did through their first two games, and then they ran into this George Washington team that I really like this GW team heading into the season. They'd really disappointed me so far. Then they
Right.
go out to Hawaii. They not only beat a fairly disappointing Colorado team in their semifinal, but they do get the win there, and then followed it up with a huge win over Wichita State that has them right back on my radar again.
Very much so. And I mean, again, you go out there over Christmas, they pick up, again, 3 wins away from home. Now, in the huge win against Wichita State, now beating Ohio, that's a respectable win. I think it will be. I know Ohio's been really, really bad this year, but still a win away from home. They beat Colorado, which may turn out to get some credit, and they beat Wichita State. I mean, I think they had themselves a hell of a week. And I mean, to get those 3 wins away from home, one of which was Wichita State, that's incredible. And you look at them, they have a shot now. And again, they're going to have to win their road games, like they're going to have to win at St. Joe's, LaSalle, Fordham, Rhodey, VC. Well, they don't need to win that one, but it's one of those things like you were talking about earlier. They're not going to get a whole bunch of chances to make cases for themselves in conference, but they'll get enough.
Yeah, and this A10 put 6 teams in the tournament this last year. I don't think they're going to come close to that this year. VCU obviously a really good team. I was looking at, are they even getting 2 teams? Because I kind of like Rhode Island. I like Dayton, but now with the loss of a couple of the big guys, I don't know that they're going to be able to continue to play well. So
Dayton's
maybe this GW is a second team. Maybe GW and Rhodey making it 3. I don't know.
Yeah, and Dayton has looked exceptionally well. Now, it was against Boston U and Georgia Tech. Nothing special, but Boston U, Georgia Tech's looked fairly good this year, albeit not on the road. But Dayton won those pretty handily. And sometimes, even though that those were key players, sometimes when you get rid of your cancer in the locker room, even if it is a key player, the team continues to play well. Now, size is a huge issue for them. I was looking at it. I don't believe the Dayton Flyers have a player over 6'6" currently.
Yeah, I guess the advantage is that they are playing in the A10. They're not playing in the
Right?
the ACC where that's going to be as big of a factor. So that may help
Yeah.
them score a few victories
But I
down.
still think they'll be formidable in the A10, and Dayton still has a shot to get in. I mean, we still got them in now. Until they
Right.
prove that they can't win without them, we'll keep putting them in.
The one other big game early this week, I mentioned very briefly UNLV. Obviously, UNLV got the huge home win over Arizona.
Yeah.
Um, I did like this UNLV team coming into the season. I think if you go back and read my preseason pick on them, I said this was a team I thought middle of the season onward was going to start coming together. It might struggle early, and that's pretty much what they have done so far. They had, I mean, none of their losses were that bad. Stanford, Arizona State, and Utah, but they hadn't done anything very impressive yet. Then they go out and they beat Arizona at home. Uh,
Yeah.
they they have a trip coming up this weekend. They're going to Kansas, so that'll be their last non-conference game. A shot to really get themselves on the map if they come up with that
Yeah.
victory.
Oh, yeah. If they go to Kansas and win, they're, wow, way inside.
One couple other games here. On Saturday, we saw the Georgetown Indiana game. Um,
That was a fun one. I
yeah,
mean, that one, it wasn't the big game of the day getting the hype, but it was certainly much more exciting, much more well played, and much less eye gouging than the headliner game of the day. That game, it went into overtime. It saw a lot of lead changes, really good crowd. 2 teams that, to me, I think are tournament caliber teams. Indiana has a couple decent wins. They really, really could have used that one, but they're going to get their chance in conference. I was not big on Indiana at all coming into the year, but I definitely think they're a tournament caliber team, or could be, if they keep it up. That was a fun one. I mean, that was just a really fun basketball game to watch.
I agree with you. And then, of course, the big game of the day: North Carolina pounded UAB. Oh,
Yes,
uh,
that was easier to watch than the biggest game of the day. Now, I
oh,
think we knew this was coming. Oh my god. Louisville, Kentucky is. Now, we have noticed this. I don't know. I think most people around the country have noticed this. This is a very bitter rivalry. I don't like calling it a big rivalry or one of the biggest simply because it's not a conference game. It isn't. It doesn't have the storylines of like Duke and North Carolina and Kansas and Missouri when they used to play, or these other big rivalries, Michigan State, to where it means something in the standings or who's going to get to host this game or who's going to get ahead or who's going to get placed. It really is just an out of conference game between two teams that really can't stand each other. I think they hate each other more than any other two teams in any other rivalry, minus maybe BYU and Utah. But it is always an ugly game. The NCAA tournament game last year was a pretty good game to watch. Other than that, it's sloppy. The shooting is atrocious. It's real physical. It's just bad basketball. And I think we kind of knew this yesterday with the two defenses being as strong as it was. Have you ever seen a game that sloppy between two top five teams in your life?
Between top five teams, no. I don't think I have. The game was sloppy. It was ugly. I kind of had this feeling. I think I emailed you sometime middle of the game or getting late in the second half. I had a feeling the whole time I'm watching the game, though, Kentucky kind of got the early lead. Louisville made one or two minor runs. I never had a feeling that Louisville had any shot of catching them, though. Even though it might have only been a 3 or 4 point game a couple of times, it still felt like Kentucky was that much better of a team, and I had no doubt when the time came they'd be able to step on the gas and win it, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah. What do you think of the placement? Is it? I don't know if it's good to have this much hate in a game that actually doesn't really mean that much, placed right before conference play. I know it's always the Saturday after Christmas. Do you maybe move this to the first game of the year just to get it out of the way and get on with the rest of your season?
Well, it makes sense. It might make sense. It's earlier in December. I guess one of the things you're looking at if you're these teams, though, you're looking at, hey, we want to play the game on a Saturday. That's when we're going to get our best crowds in there. We don't want to play it during football season. We don't want to be going up against SEC football. So when are we going to play the game? Obviously, you're not going to take a step out of conference play and play it in January or February.
No, that would be worse.
So I don't mind it too much. You're normal. I mean, for Kentucky, big deal to go into SEC play. It's the easier part of their schedule probably. So
Yeah.
Louisville in the past, it wasn't just going. Last year was just going to American Conference play, same thing. But now they're going to the ACC play. So.
But again,
I could maybe move it up 1 week, but that's about it. I do like it at the end of December.
It's the Saturday after Christmas. It will always be the Saturday after Christmas. It kind of, if you're ever in Kentucky over Christmas, you would never know it was Christmas. All anyone's talking about is this game. It's just kind of funny that you have this much build-up, this much enthusiasm for it. And at the end of the day, on paper, GW's win over Wichita State was way more important than Kentucky's win at Louisville. Like, it doesn't impact them getting to the tournament. It really doesn't even impact their seed that much. It's just an out-of-conference showcase game is really all it is. And what a bad showcase it was. What a horribly played game.
But I agree with you. If Kentucky had lost this game, going on, rolled through the rest of their season, dominated everybody like we think they're going to do, they would have been the number one. They're going to be the number one seed overall, no matter, even if they lost this game. It really wasn't anything crucial on the line in the game.
Right. Other than bragging rights.
A couple other games of note here from Saturday. First of all, Colorado State barely escaped at New Mexico State in overtime.
Yeah, I like this Colorado State team, and I think this was a better win than what it appeared. New Mexico State 5-8 on the season, but all 5 of their wins were home wins. They're 5-1 at home. They're probably not going to lose a home game the rest of the year. I think Colorado State, that's one of those that you kind of have to peel the onion back to see it, but they're going to get some credit for winning that game.
Yeah, no, I think they will. And New Mexico State's probably going to be a tournament team. They're your probable pick to win the WAC automatic bid, even though they're sub 500 right now.
Yeah.
The other game was a pretty good game. Gonzaga won at BYU. Was an entertaining game. I expected the Zags to win it, but BYU gave them a heck of a fight.
They really did, and it was kind of impressive how they fought back. Gonzaga jumped way out ahead. I was really impressed how Gonzaga started this game. Again, it was an intense, hostile atmosphere. I mean, BYU's crowds are really hostile a lot of the times. Hostile isn't intense, not as in vicious or anything like that, but I mean, Gonzaga just jumped out to a huge lead. BYU fought back and seesawed back and forth, and Gonzaga, it is not easy to win there. Gonzaga won there. I don't think Gonzaga loses the rest of the way.
I don't know that I wholly agree with that. I think that's the trip to St. Mary's is going to be tough, and the
Yeah,
West Coast Conference, top to bottom, is not that awful of a conference. I watched a couple of the West Coast Conference games yesterday as their conference play started out.
yeah,
You always get entertaining games at conference play in the West Coast Conference, almost without fail. Maybe other than Gonzaga home games, you get entertaining games.
yeah, you do. I mean, and again, Santa Clara has been disappointing, but everybody else has been pretty tough.
Um, yeah, Santa Clara has been disappointing with Loyola Marymount's not that is
Well, yeah, but
4-8,
I
but
mean, nobody expected them to be good.
right.
Anyway, so.
But you know, Portland, San Francisco, Pepperdine, San Diego. These are teams that could surprise somebody here along the way.
Yeah, and again, it's not like going to Duke or Syracuse. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to playing on the road against ranked power conference teams, but what it is that it's road games against teams that are tough to beat at home that are playing a showcase game. Every time Gonzaga plays on the road for the rest of the year, minus, well, no, because they've already played at BYU, it's the biggest game on that team's schedule. So I mean, again, so every game they play is a showcase game when you look at it like that.
I agree with you. Um, Couple other games here that actually took place today, Sunday. Um, we had, let's see here, Alabama just came off of right before we came on the air here, came off of a decent home win over a UCLA team that's been pretty disappointing so far this year. But if somebody else is going to step up in the SEC, maybe this Alabama team could be it.
They
They
need to
improved
win
to
on.
they improved to 9-3 on the season now.
Yeah.
Uh, Another game today, Harvard went out to Arizona State. I really thought Harvard was going to win this game. They did not. The Sun Devils took it. Kind of disappointing for the Crimson, who I mean, their only way in is through the automatic bid anyhow. So this wasn't for much more than seeding anyhow. But
Right, but that automatic bid, and we'll get more into this on Under the Radar, it's not, all I'm going to say, and I'll leave it at this, it's not going to be easily obtained. Yale's pretty good.
Little bit of breaking news right here as we are recording this. It is halftime in Madison, and Buffalo has a 1-point lead over Wisconsin. So
Wow.
we could have an upset in the brewing here. I do like this Buffalo team out of the MAC now, especially with Toledo having been disappointing. So we'll keep an eye on that. We might be talking about them in the Under Radar later on this week.
Yeah, this would make Buffalo's profile look really, really good.
Yeah, really good. And one other game from today, David. What happened in Michigan State last week that you kind of enjoyed?
Well, I don't know if we mentioned this last week or not, but Michigan State lost at home to Texas Southern.
And what happened to Bruce Weber today?
He lost at home to Texas Southern. Texas Southern has beaten more power conference teams on the road than Mike Davis ever did when he was at Indiana or UAB. Wow. This Kansas State team is pitiful. I mean, I say that as in they're nowhere near the tournament. Maybe they'll play their way into the NIT, but still a really impressive to beat Texas Southern, to go to Michigan State win, to go to Auburn and almost win. I believe they lost that one in overtime, and then to go to Kansas State and win. I think they're better than anyone else in the SWAC.
I don't know if you caught the end of this Texas Southern Kansas State game, David, but the way it ended was that Texas Southern was down 2 and fouled shooting a 3-pointer. Got 3 free throws, made the first 2 to tie it, missed the third. The inbounds, Kansas State then had the ball, the shot with 1 second left, and threw away the inbound pass. Texas Southern gets the inbound then and hits the shot at the buzzer to beat them.
It was amazing. Now, that was basically I'm not going to lie, that was probably, I only saw about the last 2 or 3 minutes. But, oh, man, it was something to see. And I got to tip my hat to Texas Southern. I mean, it is not easy to go out there and be road warriors. That is, for them to play the way they did in the last three games, I don't think they're anywhere close to the NIT bubble, much less the NCAA. But they should run roughshod over the SWAC and get into the field.
Well, they're sitting at 3-9 right now. They've won at Kansas State. They've won at Michigan State. They beat Lamar at home. Then they suffer nine. That Lamar one was actually their only home game so far. Every other game they played has been on the road, where they did lose at Norfolk State. Actually, that's their worst loss, really, at Norfolk State. And Norfolk State may be one of the top teams in the MEAC. So
to open the season, they were the first. They were leading the league. They were leading the nation in scoring there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, with that game against Eastern Washington, what was that, like an 8 a.m. local time start at Eastern Washington to start the season?
To start the season, the whole season.
The entire season. Very first game on November 14th. Also, they have one more road game left at New Mexico State before conference play starts, where they start conference play off with 3 straight road games as well. So their second home game won't be till January 17th.
How many season ticket holders are there for Texas Southern? Wow.
Well, maybe if we're a little closer to Houston, we could. And actually, the SWAC tournament is in Houston, not on Texas Southern's home court. But that's
well, good for them. They deserve it.
I expect Mike Davis in the tournament now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they got in last year.
With that, I think we want to discuss a couple other teams that didn't have any big wins this week, but are kind of a few teams here that are definitely worth a discussion. And let's start, David, with a team out of Conference USA. This kind of a borderline under the radar bracket racket discussion here, but the Old Dominion Monarchs. I know you're really impressed with them.
I really am. The voters, they have gone completely unnoticed. Their profile is pretty good. They have a win against Richmond, not too exciting. They beat UCLA on a neutral floor. They beat Illinois State, they lost to Illinois State. They beat VCU. They win in the George Mason, and who only has 2 losses, won there. They won at home against Georgia State, and again, it's just they only have 1 loss. They've beaten VCU and LSU, and they've won a couple good. And they had that 1 win at George Mason. Now their next 3 games are on the road. They're all conference games. Charlotte, albeit not great, is still only have 1 home loss at the moment, so that one won't be easy. But again, why isn't this team getting more attention? The voters, I think they have a total of 7 votes in one poll, 8 in another, nowhere close to the top 25. Yet they've beaten teams that are getting more votes than they are away from home.
Just for accuracy purposes, Old Dominion does have one last non-conference home game tomorrow night against Mount St. Mary's, but I expect them to roll that game. Only thing I can say about Old Dominion, they do not have a win at Michigan State and at Kansas State.
Well, that's true. They don't have that. Oh, man.
But I
does. They beat Michigan State.
Speaking about teams that have a lot of wins and, in fact, haven't lost a game at all, this week the TCU Horned Frogs broke into the AP Top 25 poll, undefeated. I think we're 11-0 right now. I'm going to make a statement right now. This is the biggest fraud top 25 team that I ever recall seeing my entire life.
Right, and again, the preseason top 25, it's all speculation, and you miss. Sometimes you just guess wrong.
Right.
This team these are their wins. Prairie View A&M 1-10, New Orleans 1-5, Mississippi Valley State 1-11, Bradley 4-8, Furman 2-8, McNeese State 1-5, San Antonio 3-5, Grambling 0-8. They have played a grand total of two teams with winning records, both at home. One of them was Radford, who is at home, and I believe, Radford has. Radford's 2-4 on the road, so that one's decent, and they'll win at Ole Miss. That is it. There has never been a team at this juncture of the season that has done less and gotten into the rankings than this TCU team. You had their strength of schedule. Let me see if I got it here in front. It is 341. Is that right?
341 out of 351 teams. I'm amazed that there's 10 teams with worse strength of schedules than this.
Yeah, that is abysmal. All they've done is proven that they can beat teams that aren't even ranked in the top 250.
Yeah.
Now, again, if they are legitimate, they will certainly get their chance to prove that when conference play starts. And I almost don't even blame them. This is a team that's had so little interest and enthusiasm in it that maybe they just needed to get some momentum going. They're undefeated. They're in the rankings. I mean, at least they have that going. But the ranking is very undeserved. I think Old Dominion would be. I think there's about 50 teams that aren't in the rankings that would be favored to win at TCU if they were to play them on TCU's home floor.
50 teams that are not in the rankings? Yeah,
Yes.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd say there's 75 to 100 teams that could be TCU on the road right now.
Yeah.
And and actually, just taking a little look, we mentioned the strength of schedule being 342. On the KenPom strength of schedule, TCU 351, dead last. And even KenPom has them sitting at a 47 overall, which is a little amazing there. I'm not
so
certain how
mean.
KenPom figures that out.
Jeez.
Uh, and on that note, I guess let's move on to one other thing that I'm looking at the KenPom numbers. We mentioned this before we went on the air. I kind of like to look at KenPom numbers, especially during the first couple months of the season. I think they're closer to a better gauge of how a team is than an RPI that,
very out of whack right now.
Very out of whack and always is out of whack until you get into the middle of February or so, maybe early February.
And again, not to bore our audience with math, but like 50% of the RPI is literally the average of your opponent's record. So really, for the first 10 games, like for instance, TCU had played Washington State. Washington State has a bigger impact as an individual team on TCU's RPI than TCU does. So it isn't even significant until the 10th or 11th game, and I would say it's about the 20th before it's even reliable.
Right. And that's why I kind of, if I see a team that has a really good KenPom rating this time of the season, I think that's probably a team that should be in, easily in a field if we're going to do a bracket projection.
Yeah.
Florida Gators are sitting right now at 15 in KenPom's numbers. And one of the most out of the whack things, if you look at their current RPI, it's 101.
Yeah.
This is one of the cases at this time of the season. I think that RPI is a lot more indicative of what this Florida team is than that KenPom rating.
Right. And again, like it's 25% your own record. So again, when you've only played, what is Florida, 7-4?
Yeah, 7-4.
Yeah, when you've only played 11 games, 25%. I mean, essentially, like that's a huge part of the RPI that's made up. Say they were 9-2, they would probably be in the 40s because the percentage difference between 9-2 and 7-4 is pretty substantial. But another thing that's hurting them is, the game against UAB, the game against Texas Southern, the game against Monroe. They've played some teams with equally poor records. And
wait. Texas Southern? They beat Michigan State and Kansas State.
They did, but they're still only 3-9.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, it's just
2-10. So again, when you have like when you play teams with winning percentages of 30 or less, that's going to sink your RPI pretty hard, and that's what we're seeing with Florida now. But yeah, 101 as opposed to 15.
It's such a big disparity now. Florida's going to have the chance to prove it on the court, but they do have two non-conference games left. They're at Florida State, and they host UConn coming up this week. They win both of those. I think that you could say they may legitimately deserve to be a tournament team. SEC play is not going to give them much chances unless they can win one of their two Kentucky games.
Right. And they've looked good. I mean, again, they've passed ever since that loss to Kansas. They blasted Yale. They blasted Texas. I mean, these are teams that you would expect Florida to beat. But if there is any such thing as the eye test, I think they've been passing it.
Well, they look great in that first half against Kansas, but they scored a single point in the second half. So.
So I do think that this Florida team is stronger than what their current profile indicates, and by the end of the year, we'll see.
On that note, I think that covers the teams we wanted to discuss here, Dave. Unless there's any other specific teams you want to make mention of before we move on to a look at next week's schedule.
Just one quick mention for our adopted team, since we're probably not going to be able to do it under the radar this week. Let's pull them up here. Oh, what did they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
a tough loss actually for the NJIT Highlanders at Lafayette today. That would have been a
Oh,
key win if they wanted to get to that
yeah.
magical 500 mark of the season.
And I really do hate this. Ever since that big week where they won at Michigan and beat St. Francis Brooklyn at home in exciting fashion with the fans storming the court, they've lost 4 of their last 5, lost rather handily. All of them have been road games. They were right in there with Nova for about 25, 30 minutes of play. I mean, I was starting to believe there, but they just ran out of gas. And God, it would have been great to see them get that win today.
A
Uh,
little look ahead here on NJIT actually though. 4 of their next 5 are at home. The only road game is at UMBC, who is pathetically bad. Uh,
yes,
they do have a home test against Yale, which is probably a loss there, but I
yeah.
think they've got a shot to put together some victories now.
Yeah, their next 3 games are very winnable, and when I say winnable, I mean they should win them. That would get them to 8 and 9 going into that Yale game, and and then after that, it's pretty easy the rest of the way, really.
It's pretty easy. They have they have a very weird schedule. Being an independent, you only can only schedule games where you can. So where
Yeah,
they actually have four not all 4 non D1 games, the maximum they're allowed to play, all being played from the middle of January on. At one point in February, they play on back-to-back nights because that's the only time they could schedule the games.
yeah.
Uh, so it's a strange schedule. We get them into a conference next year. Who do
We
you
yes,
Northeast or
we
America
want
East, right?
them. Our goal for this program as our adopted team is we want them in a postseason tournament this year, and we want them in a conference next year. Any
Exactly.
conference, any conference.
Uh, so, but let's move on now to a quick look at the week ahead as we are starting to get into conference play. There's a few teams that aren't going to be starting conference play until next week, but some of the major conferences are going to be starting this week. But let's start with Monday night. Uh, Duke is hosting a Toledo team that's been a little bit disappointing. I think that may be late game here Monday night.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, TCU is going to have their one more win to be undefeated by New Year's, hosting Tennessee State.
Yeah, they're going to get into the top 20 before they lose, but then they'll finish outside of the NIT, perhaps.
UC Irvine, who's a team we still kind of like a little bit out of the Big West conferences, is at Oregon, who's been disappointing so far.
Yeah, that's an
Uh,
interesting game. Very late tomorrow night, so
that's a late game, and the other late game with Gonzaga with a conference game at San Diego. So
yeah,
obviously San Diego's biggest home game of the year. Uh,
yeah,
so we'll see what happens there. Uh, Tuesday, December 30th, we get into the start of Big Ten play. I believe
yep.
there's 4 or 5 Big Ten games on that day, including a couple of pretty good ones here. Iowa's at Ohio State and Maryland's at Michigan State.
Yeah. I really like this Maryland team. I think if Texas Southern can do it, Maryland can do it too. Maryland's been one of the more surprising teams on the good end for me. I did not think much of them at all. Indiana, another one. Funny that they're both in the Big Ten. I was expecting them to be abysmal. They're both really good. This Maryland team is really good. I think they get that one done. Michigan really, really needs to start winning.
Yeah, Michigan is hosting Illinois. That's their
Yeah.
game Tuesday.
They're
Uh,
at home, and even though, I mean, do you get the sense that games are feeling a little pivotal for Michigan? It isn't, oh, this would be a great win that would help their profile and give them momentum and give them all that. They need to win just to stay alive.
they need any type of win they could get.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's this has been they start out playing well, but at this point, Michigan, I'm looking at them as one of the more disappointing teams in the country.
yeah,
Uh, along with Nebraska, along with Colorado.
right. I mean, again, it's like when you look at the other types of surprises, Nebraska and Colorado for sure, at least for me, those two Big 12 conference. Oh, never mind.
Well, speaking about Big 12 games, David, coming up here Tuesday evening, Oklahoma State's at Missouri.
Yeah. Oh,
Not the right Big 12 versus SEC versus Missouri matchup that you wanted, but
right. Missouri. Well, you make it hard. Missouri's making it almost impossible.
actually, I believe that game's in Kansas City. That's not a home game for Missouri, but
Yeah. Well, it sort of is. It'll be. Is that one of those Oklahoma City, Kansas City deals? I think.
yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Ole Miss is at Dayton. tomorrow as well. Again, two teams with bloated records. We talked about Dayton a little earlier. They've been tough to beat at home despite the lack of post play. Uh, bloated records, but not a great profile for either of them. So kind of a pivotal game there.
Right. And we mentioned that Florida State game. That game is Tuesday night as well.
Yeah. Kent
And
State goes to Kansas. Not the best road team, but Kent State has been better than I thought they would be. And if they get that one, and Buffalo holds on here, wow, what a week for the WAC or the MAC.
yeah. Also, this Long Beach State is continuing their gauntlet of incredible road games as they're going to Louisville Tuesday night. It's a Tuesday afternoon, but just add
I
that.
keep saying with every write-up, I mean, these are low-risk, high-reward games. If they get Louisville at Louisville and they win, if they go 16-2, 17-1 in conference play, their strength of schedule is going to be good. Their RPI is going to be good. They're going to have 3 notable wins, no bad losses. That might be enough, as crazy as it is.
It could be that they are going to have the strength of schedule without a doubt, and the committee rewards strength of schedule.
They do.
New Year's Eve is the big quintuple header on FS1 for the Big East. A couple of pretty good games here. The first one starting off at noon, St. John's and Seton Hall.
Yeah. Again, Seton Hall has a bloated record. I'm not a believer in them being a really good team. I've been very, very impressed with this Seton Hall team.
With the St. John's team, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry, with St. John's. Thank you.
I agree with you. I think this will be a good chance to really get a look at this St. John's team against some solid competition. The second game on this slate is Butler at Villanova. Butler, I think, is still a bit of a fraud despite what they did earlier in the season. I don't know that they're going to be up there at the end of the year. I haven't. They struggled with somebody today. Belmont, yeah.
Yeah, it took them until the final minutes to open that one up and pull ahead. I don't think they're going to win at Nova. That's just such a tall order. But I do like Chris Holtman. I think they're good enough to end up inside the bubble. It's just they can't win at Nova, but who can? Nova might not lose a home game all year. In fact, they haven't lost any game of any kind yet this year.
The third game of that slate is the battle for last place begins as Marquette goes to DePaul. You also have Creighton at Providence, and then the nightcap, the 10 p.m. start, Georgetown at Xavier. That might be the game of the day.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I believe they did this when I was there. I would do that again. Xavier likes to play on New Year's Eve at home. This is different. It's a conference game. They open up the dorms for that night so the kids can come back and be there for New Year's. It should be, despite being 10 o'clock at night on New Year's Eve when you wouldn't think a basketball game is what most people are doing, this might be a raucous, fun crowd, this Xavier-Georgetown game.
I feel it might be. What else to do by the New Year's Eve? Go out and have party at the game, and if you win, you can just party it right out for the rest of the night.
Oh, to be 21 years old again. Well, I want to go to that, Chad, but I'm in jail.
Well, you're definitely not allowed at the Xavier campus anymore, David. We know that.
You still think they're mad about that?
We're not allowed to discuss that. Remember the restraining order.
Okay, moving on.
A couple other games here Wednesday. A couple Big Ten games actually. Penn State, who only has one loss of the season, is at Wisconsin.
Yes.
We know Kyle loves Penn State, so.
Yeah, Penn State's gotten out there and played their schedule isn't quite as TCU's, but it's been pretty weak. This is their first real test. I don't think this Penn State team's for real. I think Wisconsin just rolls them.
And a team that we haven't really discussed much. We discussed them a lot in the preseason. I thought that they were a fraud. They're sitting here at 11-2. They've got a game coming up. They are at Purdue, actually. This is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They haven't beaten their best win is over Georgia. They've beaten a lot of garbage so far. They lost to Louisville and to St. John's. Do you think this is actually a good team, David, or where do you think this team ends up?
I mean, again, they've won against a lot of garbage, but they haven't lost to any. I mean, their 2 losses were to good teams. And again, I think what is it they need to do? 10-8. I don't think 9-9 is enough, but if they get to 10-8 in conference and avoid a loss in the opening round of the tournament, I think they're in the field.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are other years that 9-9 would have been good enough in the Big Ten. I think this year
Yeah.
it's not going to be good enough, especially when you've got some horrible non-conference losses. Incarnate Word, Texas Southern.
Yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of which, two of the more surprising teams this year, one in a good way, one in an awful way, Indiana and Nebraska. They're basically
mhm.
the complete opposite of where I thought these teams would be coming into this game. I am just really surprised at Nebraska, how well they looked at the end of the year last year, what they had coming back, what they were adding. To see them struggle so much, and again, this is they haven't looked good at any point.
No, they haven't.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, this is really, really disappointing here. I expect Indiana's going to win this game. I
yeah,
really do.
right. Now, Tim Miles is there. He will be coaching. And the question is, would Tim Miles be doing better by himself, or the players perhaps holding him back?
Well, maybe Tim Miles should take on Indiana by himself, 5-on-1.
I mean, it
Uh,
would certainly be an interesting.
Not much more. There's a few other decent games on the schedule for New Year's Eve. Just want to kind of move along here, though. New Year's Day, only top 25 team in action is Northern Iowa with their Missouri Valley Conference opener and one of their tougher games in the conference at Evansville. I'm kind of looking forward to this game on New Year's,
Yeah,
8 o'clock New Year's Day.
yeah, 8 o'clock New Year's Eve night. It's on ESPN3. I
Yep.
don't know if Fox Sports Network is picking it up or not because they have the deal with FSN Midwest. The conference does, so it might be on that channel as well. This is going to be a fun one. It's going to be one of their more challenging games, Northern Iowa. I don't believe Evansville's lost at home yet, and they're 9-2 overall.
You know,
Yeah, they have one home loss.
I do like this Evansville team. I've liked them all season. I'm actually pretty amazed by the entire Missouri Valley Conference.
Yeah,
In addition to Northern Iowa, Evansville, Wichita State, obviously. Uh, Illinois State has played pretty well, including that being the only team to beat Old Dominion.
yeah,
And Loyola of Chicago has come out of nowhere,
yeah,
won that 14 event in Vegas. Didn't really of note, but they've got a pretty solid record,
yeah. I mean,
and they. I think the MVC could be a three-bid league at the end of the day here.
it very easily could be. And if the season we're in now, I think you have two first ballot teams. They got two teams in the rankings.
Well, yeah, you got two first ballot teams, but I think a third team could even get in here.
Yeah,
Whether it's Evansville, Loyola, or Illinois State is one of
right.
them. One of those three separates from the other two, and you could be looking at three big Missouri Valley Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pac-12 play is getting underway on Friday night. A couple of pretty good ones. UCLA, well, a bad one, UCLA at Colorado. A good one, Washington at Cal.
Yeah, Washington at Cal is a great game.
Yeah.
Washington hasn't lost yet. They've really had some mud fights to stay undefeated. But I mean, again, Cal. Hopefully, the fans show up for that when they did for their other big games. Should be a fun one. UCLA at Colorado. Had they opened the season with that, not conference play, but the season with that, that would have been a hell of a game.
Yeah. You also got Washington State, Stanford, USC, Utah, but let's move on.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about next weekend. There's a couple of pretty good games coming up here, including Minnesota's at Maryland, UConn at Florida. We
And
can touch.
again, that UConn Florida game, you get the sense that both teams really need that one.
You're also seeing Big 12 play kickoff next weekend with Baylor's at Oklahoma. West Virginia is going to start the destruction of TCU on the road there,
Yeah.
and a non-conference game in Brooklyn, which seems to host a non-conference neutral court game every other day. It seems Iowa
Yeah.
State and South Carolina heading to Brooklyn next weekend.
Right. South Carolina. Angry Frank.
Angry Frank gets a pretty good Iowa State team, though.
Wow. I hope he gets. I hope nothing goes wrong when they're on the subway. He might get angry.
Anything else here, David, we wanted to discuss here? Any other games you're looking forward to?
One of the ones, again, a home court hero, perhaps. They've been pretty pathetic on the road. Georgia Tech on the road at Notre Dame. I like this Notre Dame team. I'm not completely sold on them yet. I don't think they're entirely proven, but they've been a lot better than what I've expected, and we'll see what they can do now that conference play starts. That was
Agreed.
really the only one that I was looking at.
The other one that I actually missed here, Illinois is at Ohio State. I think that that's a big test for both teams that really are going to need to prove themselves in conference play, especially this Ohio State team. If you look at this Ohio State team based on merit alone, who have you beaten?
Nobody. Their best win, it's either Marquette or High Point. And again, nothing against High Point. Beating High Point at home, if that's your best win, if the season ends and that's still their best win, they're out.
Yeah, they're out. On the other hand, if I the way I look at this Ohio State team, I think this Ohio State team is good enough to be easily a single-digit seed, maybe even in the 5 or 6 seed range at the end
They
of the day.
definitely are. And Thad Matta, the last couple years, last year and this year, you kind of wonder because this is a coach, and you look at his whole history back to Butler, Xavier, and even his early years at Ohio State. I mean, they went out there and they played a killer out of conference schedule.
Mhm.
Now it just seems like more and more bye games are being added to where now 75% of their out of conference schedule is bye games. And again, there's more than one road that leads to Rome. But why are they doing that? You just wonder why you see such, to me, what looks like an obvious change in scheduling philosophy for Ohio State.
It does not make any sense, and this could be the year it comes back to bite them if they, especially with the entire Big Ten being on a down year, especially compared to the past couple of seasons.
Yeah,
They are going to need the big wins. They may need to beat Wisconsin this year. They
yeah.
may need to beat Maryland this year.
Hmm.
Um, Well, on that note, David, I think we do want to wish everybody out there a very happy New Year. We're probably not going to have an under the radar this week. So our next broadcast will probably be next week. We do also want to let people know to check out the website. We do have the most recent bracket. I think it came up right before Christmas on there. Not much has happened. Not much major has happened, so we'll probably not do another update of that for at least a few more days, I don't think.
Yeah, other than GW, it was updated December 24th, Christmas Eve. It was before the Diamond Head Classic had concluded. If we were to redo it, GW would certainly be in the field, but they're not now. So with that, well, I'm not going to have a very happy New Year, Chad, unless you come and give me another.
Well, I'm going to look into it. I may try to get something done. One other change that might be in that bracket, though, uh, Texas Southern. You have them in a play-in game on the 16 line.
Right.
They've won at Michigan State and at Kansas State. Don't they at least deserve a solo one of
Absolutely.
the other
They would
16 seeds?
they would be inside the first four for
Yeah.
sure. I think they would be. You're half kidding, but you're only half kidding. They would not be in the first four at all. Um, yeah. And TCU, I hope they enjoy the time they spend in our bracket. I don't anticipate them being there very much longer.
Yeah, but by our next show, we're going to be discussing how TCU had been in the top 25, and
Right.
by the show after that, we're not going to be mentioning them again.
Right.
So, on that note, again, Happy New Year, everybody. David, we'll be trying to get you out of jail tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Great.
Take care.